Hey everybody, it's Mike. Welcome to Chip Damage. And can you believe that in a few short weeks, the Nintendo Switch will be turning 5 years old? Yes, on March 3rd of this year, the Nintendo Switch will be entering its 5th year already. And to me, that is simply mind-blowing. The Switch to me still feels like a fairly new piece of equipment. And you know what? When that thing launched back in 2017, it was kind of unsure of how it would do. And you know what? Despite all the odds and the failure of its predecessor, it's a resounding success. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about where the Switch is at year 5. Its faults, its heights, its lows, everything. Its many successes, its many failures. Because you know what? The Switch is something of a divisive system. Some people love it, some people ignore it. And I want to let you guys know my history with it, my opinion on it. We'll talk about some of the games and where I think the Switch is and should go going forward from here. Because man, it's been a wild 5 years for this little handheld / console, whatever, hybrid. And that's what we'll be going through today. So if you like what you're about to hear, please consider liking, subscribing, doing all that YouTube stuff. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Yeah, the Nintendo Switch, 5 years old, geez. Now, of course you know, but let's go over a little bit of brief history, right? The Nintendo Switch is the successor to the Nintendo Wii U, which I and about 5 other people bought and liked, but was a resounding failure. Coming into the 7th generation, or out of the 7th generation, the Wii had sold about 100 million units. Its most successful home console of all time. Nintendo was riding high. The Nintendo DS, its contemporary handheld at the time, 154 million units sold. Nintendo was at an all-time high. And they thought they were going to continue with that success, kind of appealing to, the large casual market with the Wii U, a very similarly named product that was very poorly marketed. Like, people didn't know what it was. They thought it was an add-on for the system. It didn't have like a flagship title. Like, it didn't launch with a brand new Mario or Zelda, and it never caught on, selling only a little over 13 million units. Yes, the Wii sold 100 million, the Wii U sold 13 million after that. That is something of a drop-off. It's spectacular failure really shifted Nintendo's focus for their next console. So only 5 short years later, from the Wii U's launch in 2012 to the Switch's launch in 2017, they really kind of refocused what they were going to be doing in the future, like shifted tactics. And and to say the Switch in terms of generations is kind of in an odd spot. Is it like an 8th gen system, a 9th gen system? It came out so much farther after the PS4 and Xbox One, in their launches in 2013. It came out 4 years after that, but so much earlier than the PS5 and the Xbox One. So that kind of puts it in a weird spot. Like, which gen is it in? The Dreamcast was something in a similar situation 20 years ago. And for me, I always looked at it as Nintendo just launched 2 systems in one generation. Like, it was too early to be like a 9th gen console. But, I think if you were to look up in most kind of media outlets or informational outlets like Wikipedia, they put the Switch in the 9th gen with PS5 and Xbox One. It doesn't really matter. I don't exactly feel it's that way. But I mean, it is now competing with those systems. And of course, the Xbox One and PS4 will soon be discontinued. The Xbox One has already discontinued production. So I guess it will be kind of looked at as an early 9th gen system. Well, that doesn't really matter, but just for historical purposes, it is an oddity, it is a curio. But yeah, after that failure of the Wii U, we didn't know what was going to happen with the Nintendo, the Switch, the general gaming world. So, like I said, I myself was a supporter of the Wii U. It was never super popular right off the bat. You could just feel it wasn't very prevalent in the gaming world. Not many people had it, but it had some great titles. And I enjoyed it for what it's worth, but, it was a dark time for Nintendo. The steady stream of quality releases for the Wii U was slow. And the 3DS, while successful overall, was Nintendo's least, successful handheld. 76 million units, I believe, at the end of the day, which is great. But compared to the DS's 154 million, not a lot, even though despite a number of fantastic titles. Like, Nintendo was in a rough spot in comparison to prior generations. And, when the Switch was announced, originally as Project NX, like way back when, I believe 2015, that was kind of the last nail in the coffin for the Wii U. Like, production on those and quality titles like just slowed to a crawl. And you just kept hearing like the NX, like Nintendo's new game plan. Like, they're going to rival Sony and Microsoft. They're going to, have a powerful piece of hardware, something that's really going to put Nintendo back in the position it was in the Wii days. And, that was a really tall order. And we waited for, I believe, 2 years after that initial naming of NX to the revealing of the Switch. And it took a while. I believe it was in late 2016 or the first month of 2017, we actually got the reveal of the Switch. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was very disappointed in what I saw. I guess I'm old school in that way. I wanted Nintendo to come out with a beefy little piece of hardware that was incredibly graphically powered and didn't have any gimmick. It was just a box, the PlayStation or the Xbox, but just had better online capabilities and, could run better games. And, if you got a port of a third-party game, it would play best on the Switch. And, that's just not how Nintendo does things. The last time they kind of tried to compete graphically with a more traditional system was, of course, the Gamecube. Great system, but not a great success. They were going to continue to do a gimmick. And this gimmick was more than just a regular gimmick. It wasn't motion control. It wasn't a tablet. They were going to combine their hardware, their home consoles, with their more successful line of portable consoles. And you know what? In the end, that paid off. But at first, I just wasn't impressed. Even though I love handheld consoles, I usually keep them at home for the most part because I'm afraid of losing or breaking them. So the aspect of being able to take my console games anywhere wasn't very appealing to me. Obviously, it's a very cool feature that would make things greatly convenient, but that didn't say to me the games you will be playing on it will be better than other places you could play them. And, I was lucky. I was friends with multiple people in the GameStop industry who got to go and play the Switch early at an event in New York City. I was invited to that event. So I got to play the Switch about 2 months before the general public in New York City at an event where they had many of the early titles and the launch titles available for play. These were titles such as, obviously, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Ultra Street Fighter 2, Just Dance, and a number of smaller titles like ARMS. And to be honest, I wasn't impressed. Breath of the Wild was already coming to the Wii U, which I already had, so that wasn't a big selling point for me. I'm not the biggest Zelda fan. Ultra Street Fighter 2 is an odd early title. I mean, it's literally Street Fighter 2, HD Turbo Remix, just re-released. ARMS didn't impress. The side titles like 1-2 Switch, they're not for me. So I walked out of the event even less impressed with the Switch. I don't need this thing. I think this might be a repeat of the Wii U's failures, even though I love that console. I just wasn't jazzed about the Switch. And I didn't think that many people would be. But boy, was I wrong. So when the console finally launched in March 3rd, that thing flew off shelves. It was hard to get. People ate it up because most people didn't have a Wii U and they wanted to play that new Zelda Breath of the Wild. And let me tell you, despite not being the largest Zelda fan, that game is excellent, and that was the big hit. That's what the Wii U needed, a big flagship launch title. I mean, there was nothing on the Wii U. It was like Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge, and like Tekken Tag Tournament 2. It was not phenomenal. Batman Arkham City, the Armored Edition, that was a bad launch. The Switch just killed it with Breath of the Wild, and it sold like crazy. For me, myself, though, having the Wii U, getting Zelda on that, I'm like, all right, there's nothing that's really hooking me on this. I'm still somewhat impressed. And if you've seen some of my prior videos, you know what made me finally go and get a Switch. And that is the announcement that Bayonetta 3, the sequel to two of my favorite games of all time, Bayonetta 1 and 2, was going to be Switch exclusive. That was announced late in 2017 at the Game Awards, and I immediately ran out and bought that thing, let me tell you. But with that being said, the first year of the Switch was solid, and since a few months had passed since the launch of the Switch, I immediately went and picked up the ones I didn't have. Of course, there's Mario Odyssey, which I believe is a fantastic game. The Switch did it right. In its first year, it launched with Zelda, and then very shortly after, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, an enhanced port of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, and Mario Odyssey, the successor of Mario's 3D adventures like Galaxy, Sunshine, and 64. And, that's a hell of a first year. I can see why that thing sold so well. And those were all great games. I already played a hell of a lot of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, but, the enhancements were nice. Having all the DLC right on there, along with new characters like Link and the Squid Kids, the Inklings from Splatoon were cool. And, other people had it. When you had a Wii U game, despite how good it is, no one else had it. And then Mario Odyssey, what a cool game. I must say, not my favorite 3D Mario. I think it was excellent, but I still don't think it holds a torch anywhere near Galaxy 1 or 2. It was a bit easier. It was a bit more friendly. It was a bit more like you kind of wander around and do things. but still an excellent game that sold fantastically. I believe it's the best-selling 3D Mario of all time at this point. And man, as time went on, the Switch just kind of didn't have a focus, but I think that's the good thing about it. To slow it down, throughout the years, the Switch hasn't had an intent focus in one area of gaming, whether it be hardcore, casual. No. The Switch went with the whatever can get on Switch, we're going to put on Switch. Of course, maintaining a strong lineup of first-party titles with outings, like I said, Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, Yoshi, Kirby, Donkey Kong. There have been a splattering of third-party titles that you would never see on prior Nintendo consoles like the Wii or Wii U. And I think that really increased interest in the system. Even though these are not the best versions of the games, they are portable, and there is value in that. It is fun to play some of your favorite games, albeit older and maybe not as pretty. If you're on the go, if you're at the doctor's office, if you're getting your oil changed, what have you, if you're on a family trip and you don't want to unscrew the whole system out of your wall. These are games are like Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Doom, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. There's a Dark Souls port on the Nintendo Switch. Like I said, none of these are the ideal versions, but they're the only versions that you can very easily plunk out of your TV and take with you, and there is value in that, and those versions sell. I thought that would be silly to be releasing so many older games, older ports on this console, but Nintendo continues to do it, and they're from third parties like Bethesda, id Software, and From Software. These really add to the library. And of course, many people complain that the Wii U has nothing but ports of Wii U games. They just keep re-releasing Wii U games. I think this is coming from people who had the Wii U, all 13 million of us, which isn't a lot. So to many people, these are brand new games, and a lot of them are excellent. Like I said, Bayonetta 2 outsold the Wii U version, and this is a better version. It runs a bit smoother. Mario 3D World, which was kind of the flagship title for Mario on the Nintendo Wii U, sold well there, but like I said, no one had that console, so they re-released it on the Switch, and this is a far better version. You run 30% faster, everything just looks a little better in 1080, and it comes with the Bowser's Fury side game, which is like a full 3D Mario adventure, like 8 hours long. It's a much better package that people didn't get to play prior. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, one of the best 2.5D platformers that released on the Wii U. Donkey Kong needs more love, especially 2D Donkey Kong. And this launched with an easy mode where you get to play as Funky Kong, because the game ain't easy for everybody. Let me tell you, tough game, great game that more people have access to. And even with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, now the best-selling Mario Kart game of all time. Like I said, better version. There was Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE or Fire Emblem, a dual production between the teams that make Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem, a game that came out very late in the Wii U's lifespan, coming out on the Switch with bonus costumes and looking sharper. More people should play this game, by the way. I like this game more than Persona 5. I got to tell you, this is fantastic. And it gives it a second life with some bonuses. And sure, some of them are a little odd. There's like Ultra Street Fighter 2, which of course I bought because I'm a Capcom shill. But yet again, if you want to have some old school Street Fighter fun on the Switch, you have options. And this is the latest and greatest version of Street Fighter 2. Adding Evil Ryu and the return of Violent Ken. Not exactly the most enticing draw for this game. It's a little overpriced, but there's other collections of Street Fighter 2. Like, you have the options. These are for all types of gamers. Hell, even games that didn't debut on the Wii U coming out on the Switch, like Street Fighter, fantastic. Like The World Ends With You, the final mix version. This is a DS game that was very beloved, and before the announcement of Part 2, they re-released this in the Switch. Like, it really just bolsters the library, and a lot of people may have not have had the chance to play them on Wii U, or some time has passed since games like these, like World Ends With You, have come out, and you just have the options. And then you have third-party titles that just aren't being released on other consoles, like the Collection of Mana, which is a collection of the 3 old Secret of Mana games, Trials of Mana, Final Fantasy Adventure. This collection isn't anywhere else on console. You can only get it on the Switch, and that's fantastic. And there are many classic JRPG launches that are only found on the Switch. The Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3. There's the Saga collection. Those aren't exclusive to Nintendo for any reason, but they come out on the Switch, yet again bolstering it. And Then there's the big announcements for the Switch that took a while to come out. Yeah, like this new gem right here, Shin Megami Tensei 5. This game was announced right before the Switch came out and took almost that full 5 years till just a few months ago to come out. This game is fantastic. This is a hardcore JRPG, brand new, out on the Switch, exclusive. There are rumors that it'll come out on the PS4 and 5 in a year, but for the time being, this is a Nintendo exclusive, and this is something not to be missed. You know, and like I said, what a diverse library. We're looking at their some of their smaller titles like Cruisin' Blast, a callback to the Cruisin' USA, Cruisin' World games from the arcades and N64. Now back on the Switch. For $40, you get to play one of the wackiest, most fun racing games out there. I love this. I just picked this up prior. It was kind of hard to find a physical release for this a little while ago, but now you can get it. And like I said, as I'm going through these titles, I'm realizing, man, you know, the Switch can't step to its contemporaries in the PC graphically. And you think that would hurt it. That's one of the common complaints. Like, all right, the thing's not 4K. It doesn't have great online, so on and so forth. There were huge problems with the hardware to this day with the Nintendo Joy-Con drift issues where the controller sticks kind of drift and move on their own. And yet again, you think this would slow down the sales of the Switch or hurt it in some way, but this thing just keeps on selling. As of this moment, the Nintendo Switch has sold 103.54 million units, surpassing the Nintendo Wii's lifetime sales of 100 million. That's insane. If you count the Switch as a home console, which I mostly do, I see it as a home console that you can take with you. It is now Nintendo's most successful home console. That's wild to me. I never thought anything would surpass the Wii in Nintendo's catalog, but it has. And it's only taken just under 5 years to do so. And the Switch ain't done yet. There's still at least 2 or 3 more years of development before a new console comes out for this, maybe longer. I mean, consoles stay out up to 8 years now, you know, and if it's doing well, why not? Why change? And a fascinating part of that is in the 5 years since launch, the Nintendo Switch has not had a price drop. It has been $300 since the day it's launched. And these things barely ever go on sale, especially here in the US. There have been multiple versions released up until this day. There's the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is a exclusive handheld. You do not dock that. It's a Switch that can't switch, but you know, it's a good thing for kids or people who already own a Switch and just want one to take on the go. It's pretty durable. That's $200. And the very recent release of the Switch OLED, which is a slightly higher end model with a built-in Ethernet cable and a bigger, better OLED screen for $350. But what I'm getting at is these things are not super cheap. They've never dropped in the years since they've come out. They're cheaper than their competitors, but there's never been like a moment where Nintendo's sales have slowed down that they say, hey, drop the price on this, you know, like any piece of hardware does. Usually as hardware gets older, obviously, you know, the technology gets older, you drop the price so you could sell more because they're slowing down. Nintendo has not done that, and these things continue to sell like crazy. 103.54 million. And we'll get back to some other titles that I want to talk about and recommend quickly. But on the subject of sales numbers, some of these individual game sales numbers are insane. The best-selling game on the Nintendo Switch is the aforementioned Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a re-release of a Wii U game. This game just keeps selling. 43 million units sold, not counting the Wii U 8 million sold. It would be like, if you count that, it would be 51 million units of that game sold. But it's 43 million. That's insane. That is nearly half the player base. Almost no game on any non-bundled game sells nearly half of the install base of the console. That's insane. But it's obvious. Why? When you go to a store and you're getting a Switch for yourself or as a gift, you know, what's the easiest, most general game you can get someone that's good? And it's Mario Kart. You know, despite everything, Mario Kart is fun for just about everybody, whether it be 5-year-olds or a bunch of drunken 40-year-olds who just want to chill for, you know, and hang out for a bit. Mario Kart is fun. It's a game that you give with the system and you're going to get a few hours of enjoyment out of, or you'll get a lot more than that. I think Mario Kart 8 is the best Mario Kart that's been released. Like, you know, Double Dash and 64 are great, and the Wii, but there's just the way that Mario Kart 8 looks and sounds like, yeah, it's missing some features from the prior ones, but the amount of stuff you can kind of do and unlock, it's really great. I love Mario Kart 8. The second highest selling game on the Switch kind of disturbs me. With 37.62 million units, we are talking about Animal Crossing New Horizons. Okay, no offense to anybody out there, but I am not an Animal Crossing fan, not because of the quality of the games themselves, but that game would just give me anxiety. The fact that like it's in real time and you got to take care of your town and your house and all this, like, but if you have like a full-time job or responsibilities or significant others, like how do you deal with this? Like you have to just let things go, and that would drive me insane. And it's not a game you play exactly. It's not played for fun. It's kind of like a weird PDF that you just keep track of. I don't know. It's not my thing, but a big part, I mean, Animal Crossing, ever since especially the DS launch of New Leaf, has been rising in popularity. However, this game launched at the very beginning of lockdown in the United States and many parts of the world in March 2019. And, a lot of people were home for a long time and needed something stress relieving and just to chill. And I think that gave a huge boon to Animal Crossing. People were stuck at home and wanted to live a life, but they couldn't because they were on lockdown. So they bought this game. When you have the time to play it, it's very relaxing. It's not like it's for all skill levels, any gender, any ethnicity, any region of the world. I think that's a huge reason why this game has sold so much. I believe New Leaf only sold 5 to 6 million copies. So for this to be the second highest selling game on the console at nearly 38 million, it blows my mind. It kind of disturbs me. I'm so curious what the next Animal Crossing will be. I've heard this isn't everyone's favorite Animal Crossing too. Like they've added and removed features or some weird DLC things, save file things, but still, like the numbers don't lie. Like that game surpassed our number 3 by a mile, and I don't think deservedly so, but I understand why. And if you're a big fan, let me know why this is either a good or bad Animal Crossing game, because I don't have any hands-on experience with this newest one. It's not really something I was interested in. Number 3, though, it was something I was very interested in. That is the game I'm holding in my hands. At 27.4 million units sold, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is the number 3 highest selling Nintendo Switch game. I've talked about this in my other videos. As someone who is a hardcore fighting game fan of Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, pretty much any fighting game, I am not one of those that excludes Smash Bros. Who thinks it's just for kids. I mean, it has a lower barrier of entry perhaps, but you can put Smash in one of two categories. You can see it as a party game or a fighting game. I see it as both. I think it is a unique game where you can make it a hardcore kind of competitive fighter, Final Destination, no items, or you can have an 8-player, like all Pokeballs match. It doesn't matter. Regardless of what it is objectively, it's a great game. And it is also objectively the greatest collaboration in video game history. Fortnite may have more franchises involved by the time it's all said and done, but those are just skins forced into that game. You're not the character. Smash Brothers has, at this time, 86 playable characters, with the most recent and final release being Sora from Kingdom Hearts. They are lovingly massaged into this game with their move list, with their music, with a stage, and it feels like it was made by fans of those franchises for fans of those franchises. Masahiro Sakurai, the director, one of the more famous auteurs in the gaming world, really made sure that when he got the IP of those multiple franchises, sometimes from competing companies like Capcom and Konami, and sometimes from Western competing studios like Microsoft with Minecraft and Banjo-Kazooie, that he captured their essence for the fans. And example, I'm a huge SNK fan. My boy is Terry Bogard. He got thrown in there because Sakurai is an old school fighting game fan, and I love the way he plays. He's got moves from multiple games in his franchise, Fatal Fury and the King of Fighters. And if you play one-on-one, he automatically faces the character that he's fighting, much like in traditional fighting games. So does Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter and Kazuya from Tekken. And you can do this simple Smash Brothers input, forward B, up B, whatever. But if you input them if you put in the input from the original game for the move, let's say down forward punch from Street Fighter for Hadouken, they do more damage. So it rewards you as a fan if you know those moves, if you're comfortable with executing them. That's something that's completely unnecessary. He didn't have to go that extra mile, but he did. And it's that for every franchise included. Bayonetta, if you're a Bayonetta fan like me, she feels like she's from her game. Sonic, whatever. I mean, this is a game where you can be Sephiroth and fight Donkey Kong, and it doesn't feel weird. And that is something that I doubt we'll ever have again. They've already said the next game will be smaller. They can't continue to hold those licenses forever. And I would be fine with that game just getting re-released for the next 10 years because it is unique and it deserves to be the third highest selling Switch game. And if you count it as a strict fighter, the highest selling single fighting game of all time. We must move on, though, from that classic. Number 4, the launch title, Breath of the Wild, launching on the Wii U as its final game and as the Switch's first game, with an impressive 24.13 million units sold. By far the highest selling Zelda. It is like the Skyrim of its franchise, where I don't even think people called it like Zelda anymore. They just call it Breath of the Wild. It's kind of a sub-series that's going to become its own series. And it is a great game. Not my favorite Zelda. That'll always be Wind Waker, but a game that is just good for anyone, whether they be old or new fans coming back. Continues to sell. 5 years in, still the 4th highest selling game of all time. Still sells units to this day, and many fans are eagerly awaiting its sequel, hopefully sometime in 2022. And that's not the only Zelda game on there. Like, Zelda got a boon because of Breath of the Wild. Usually, there's only 1 or 2, maybe 3 Zelda games, like 1 or 2 main games per console, maybe a spin-off or 2. But no, on this console, we are getting at least 2 mainline Zelda games with Zelda and hopefully its sequel, Breath of the Wild and its sequel, hopefully soon. But we also got the re-release of Skyward Sword and Link's Awakening. Fantastic titles that maybe had smaller player bases, because Link's Awakening, which I love, was originally released on the Game Boy many years ago, and now it got the Happy Meal version that some people have issues with the frame rate. I'm like, whatever. It's like not the most action-packed game. I thought it was cool. That sold over 5 million units. It did well. Skyward Sword, a late Wii game that many people passed over, got released on July 16th of the last year, and that has been doing very well. We also have the fantastic re-release of Hyrule Warriors. One of my favorite Wii U titles was Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U, and that game is a Dynasty Warriors game where you play as many characters from throughout the Zelda franchise, like 5 versions of Link. It's like Breath of the Wild Link, Classic Link, Wind Waker Link, you'd be the fierce deity, what have you, and like characters from the whole franchise. It was re-released on 3DS in a not so great version, but with extra content, and then the definitive edition on the Switch with all the content from the Wii U and the 3DS version, plus its own original content. Amazing game. That game got a spiritual sequel, and which is also a prequel to Breath of the Wild, that is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is another great Musou game, Dynasty Warriors style game. So there's a lot of Zelda on the Switch, and Zelda has picked up a lot of steam. Always fan favorite, but never as popular as, let's say, Mario or Mario Kart, but it's damn close. And I think Zelda has picked up the most steam it has ever had in its over 35-year history. And to show, it is sold more than the top-selling like Mario game on the Switch, like the Mario Adventure game, which is insane to me. Moving on, though, of course, if all these games sucked, if all these games weren't released, let's say, as long as the Switch, as Nintendo continues to produce Pokemon games, it will do fine. Pokemon, the largest IP in the world. Look it up. Bigger than freaking Hello Kitty or Call of Duty or even Disney. Pokemon, biggest IP in the world. And there have been a number of Pokemon titles released on the Switch. Some were spin-offs that were originally on the Wii U, like Pokken Tournament. And, despite that game not having a huge amount of popularity, solid title that no one played on the Wii U. It was kind of odd. To play 2-player, one person needed to be on the touchpad, kind of hampered that game. But the re-release on Switch was great. There were some great side titles of their own, like Pokemon Snap, and the very recently released Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is supposed to be fantastic. But the mainline Pokemon games, so there is some controversy with these. There is 3 main ones. Let's say the 3 kind of central titles. The first one being the enhanced remake of Pokemon Yellow. That is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, which is a kind of hybrid of Pokemon Yellow with some features from Pokemon Go, the mobile game. People didn't want this per se, like they didn't want the easier catching, but and some people weren't keen on the visuals at first, but I think this game has been redeemed. I loved this game to death. I just made the Pokemon Go features just kind of made the catching a little bit easier. And it was a great nostalgia trip. And I think people have really grown to love the style of characters in this, the character designs, and I have. And I think more people want the more recent games to actually kind of look like this. And this game was a very good seller. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the highest selling Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch, our 5th highest selling game with 23.9 million copies combined, is Pokemon Sword and Shield. Seen here, the Pokemon Sword version, our 5th highest selling game. Now, this game, very controversial because it is the first game to not have the entire Pokedex, as in you cannot have all the Pokemon in this game. This is the first mainline game to do that. It was known as Dexit a couple years ago, like Brexit, controversy, what have you. And there were other problems with this game that many fans didn't have. It was too easy, your rival's a sissy, so on and so forth. Well, first off, let me get this out of the way. Game is beautiful, looks great for the Switch. Not pushing any boundaries, but attractive character models and designs for the world. But as far as not having the Pokedex, yeah, that sucks. I'm not going to go on and about it, but you could have it. Some people said there's too many models and maybe it should rotate like a fighting game. Not all the characters are there, but I'm like, if you could have 800 or 700 unique models on the 3DS with Pokemon Ultra Sun, you could have 800 unique models on the Switch. The balance is already mostly there. You just add 50 more Pokemon and, it sucks to see what they've cut. And with the DLC for these games, which was quite solid, they added like 200 back. But the original release had like half of all the Pokemon. And, I know that the slogan hasn't been gotta catch them all for a long time, but to bring your forward's favorite is a focus of the Pokemon series. There are two Pokemon services, Pokemon Home and Bank, that allow you to bring your Pokemon forward from prior games to new games. And they are paid services, $10 to $15 a year, not a lot, but you are paying to bring your Pokemon forward. That's money that adds up. So with that being said, I think it is ludicrous that the largest IP in the world says they can't bring them all, too much, coding, balance, blah. When most of the groundwork is laid there. These games, the sales of these games, and the fact that there are services that pay you that allow you to supposedly do this, I think they can do it. And by the time the DLC was done, they were like 200 short from the full Pokedex. It can happen. I think hopefully in the future it will happen. We're not sure, but regardless, these games were still solid. Some solid new Pokemon designs. I mean, some of the Galar region, like Surf-fetched Pokemon and wheezing and coughing, they look fantastic. I think this was a solid game. And despite all that controversy, it is now the second highest selling game in the franchise, Sword and Shield, only behind Red and Blue, with 23.9, basically 24 million units. But we must move on. Of course, the next game, the sixth highest selling game in the franchise. Do I have it with me today on the table? No, but I have it. No, I don't have it with me here, but of course it is Mario Odyssey. Now, like I said, not my favorite Mario game. Was that? Yes, I do have it right here. Not my favorite 3D Mario game. I think it was a little easy. I don't think the music was quite as good as it was in Galaxy, but still a solid title. A long game with far too many collectibles, those moons. Selling a respectable 23.02 million units, the highest selling Mario adventure, like 3D Mario adventure. No DLC for this. And it's been 5 years since we've gotten since this game has come out, and we haven't gotten a brand new full-fledged Mario 3D adventure since then. But I think many people believe that Bowser's Fury is kind of a tease of what's to come. I hope that's the case. I can't wait for the next 3D Mario title. But this was great. This is good for all ages. Nothing wrong. Nothing spectacular about it in my mind, but some very cool features. You get to be a T-Rex. But no DLC, no expansions for this. Not really. Some little updates like Luigi and balloons and stuff. But I would say that, this is another game that when you get your Switch, it's like you got to get Mario, Zelda, and Mario Kart. But great game. Some cool features. It's Mario. You're not going to go wrong with that. And then the seventh highest selling game on the list is Super Mario Party with 17.39 million units. I don't have that game. I thought that game was pretty boring. I'm not going to lie. I really hope that Mario Superstars surpasses that game in sales. I just think that Super Mario Party was the first okay Mario Party released in like 10 years, maybe longer. Like it was the first Switch Mario Party, so people were thirsty for that. And it was okay. It's better than Mario Kart 10 and 9, which were incredibly boring. This game's kind of boring too, in my eyes. Like it got old quick with the boards. And there wasn't any huge content update, and you couldn't play online for like 2 years, and it was like Mario Kart Superstars was already announced. But Mario Party came back, and it was okay, just not my thing. So we'll move on from that. The next game I already mentioned, that's Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, selling a whopping 14.3 million copies. Yet again, people didn't want to play these. They thought like they wanted to boycott it because it had the Go mechanics, but 14.3 million people played it because you know what? Pokemon isn't all ages games. There's always going to be kids who want to buy this. And you know what? Sometimes you just got to let it go and say, hey, this is a fun, great game. What can I say? If you were hesitant on this, if you're a Pokemon fan, or if you've only ever played the older gens, check this out. This game is fun. This game is cool. The music's great. The visuals are fun. And I'm really hoping for a Let's Go version of Gold and Silver, like Let's Go, I don't know, Cyndaquil and Chikorita, or Let's Go Ho-Oh and Lugia, because I would buy that in a second. This is, of course, like the third re-release of Red and Blue. Like there's the original release of of Gen 1. Then there is the Gen 1 remakes of Fire Red and Leaf Green, and this is another Gen 1 re-release, even though it is more focused on yellow than red or blue. Still great. Check it out. Pokemon, you can't keep it down. And then there's the most recent Pokemon mainline releases, and that is another controversial title or divisive title, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. These are remakes of the Gen 4 Pokemon games. These have sold already since their launch in November 13.97 million units. That is insane that a game only 4 months old has sold that much, less than 3 months old. And yet again, some people were very turned off by the visuals in this, deemed a low effort remake. Sure, I get that. It doesn't have as much love into it as Heart Gold or Mega Ruby or Let's Go Pikachu even, with its chibi character designs, but it's Pokemon. To me, like I've said in prior videos, this is the perfect like turn my brain off and just, you know, if I'm at a doctor's office or oil change game. It is easier than its prior release because all the Pokemon in your party level up consecutive, like at the same time. There's like an experience all on. Not a full Pokedex. It is strictly like up until the Gen 4 for the most part Pokedex, but a solid fun game, and some people must love it. This is a remake of many people's first Pokemon game due to the sheer popularity of the original Diamond and Pearl on the DS. So it was great for fans of that. It was great for newcomers to that gen like me because I never played those. And yeah, it's easy and it's a little simplistic, but it's Pokemon. Pokemon has a fundamentally fun system. If it didn't, it wouldn't be a big seller and the largest IP in the world. So you know what? Not the best, not the most exciting, but still a solid title and the 9th highest selling game on the Switch. And number 10 is something I don't have, but was something that blew up during the pandemic as well. That is Ring Fit Adventure. That's 13.53 million units sold. Kind of a successor to the Wii Fit, Wii U Fit, type of games, but I've heard they're actually good workouts, and especially with people being more homebound over the last 2 years, two years, you know, great option. I've heard it's really fun. So good job for people who want to get in shape and have some fun. God bless, man, with 13.53 million units sold. And those are some huge numbers and a lot of titles from multiple franchises doing really, really well. Just to show you how healthy this console is, even 5 years into its life. But let's talk about some other titles that just shock me on the Switch, showing its diversity. You have, if you are a JRPG fan like myself, your options are immense on the Switch. Of course, the aforementioned Shin Megami and some of the classic older titles like Dragon Quest and Collection of Mana and Saga. But you had the re-release of this beautiful game right here, the Xenoblade Chronicles game that originally came out on the Wii, was on the 3DS, but got a facelift with some additional content on the Switch. It's a beautiful version. My boy Shulk never looked so good. I really felt it for this one. And this is something you got to check out, even if you've played the original, because it has some surprises for you. But yet again, Nintendo's second-party company, but they've been real. This is a hardcore JRPG. This is a 100-hour game with a complex battle system that Nintendo put at the forefront, you know, and really did a number on. Monolith Soft just killing it, helping make Breath of the Wild. And of course, launching in the first year of the Switch's life, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, a kind of a surprise sequel. You know, launching at the tail end of 2017 and doing numbers. These games both sold, I believe, over 1 million and possibly over 2 million last time I checked individually, especially Xenoblade 2. Yet again, huge JRPG, adding to that Switch's diverse library, getting more popular than ever, especially to the point where you have Pyra/Mythra in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and they're really fun characters and done super well. But like I said, fantastic JRPGs with interesting battle systems. I am seriously hoping that Xenoblade Chronicles X is ported to the Switch. That is one of the few second-party titles, big games, released for the Wii U that is not on the Switch, and that game is massive. That game is ridiculously huge, bigger than, I believe, Skyrim and Grand Theft Auto combined. If you haven't checked it out, Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U is still a reason to own that system. Hopefully it comes to the Switch, but it has been quite a few years, even though they still release Wii U games, and I think some work would need to be done for that game. That game did use the gamepad a little bit, and that would be odd transition. But Xenoblade Chronicles X, hopefully coming there, because Xenoblade has really been kicking in the last few years, and rightfully so. But what are some small titles that came out? Oh, of course, digitally, you have the Geo Pocket Games coming out on the Switch. If you don't know, the Geo Pocket Color was an SNK system handheld that came out right before the Game Boy Advance. Only weirdos like me enjoyed. And I must say, like, they've been doing an incredible job bringing these more obscure kind of esoteric games to the Switch. The Samurai Showdown 2 and Capcom, or SNK vs. Capcom Match of the Millennium, Metal Slug First and Second Mission. Games that barely anyone got to play, but fantastic games brought to the Switch by Code Mystics, fantastic fighting game porters with multiple color options and gradient options. And they continue to make them to this day. There's well over 10, 12 titles released for it. What you're seeing here in front of you is a physical limited run edition of these games. The first 10, the SNK Neo Geo Pocket Color Collection Volume 1. There will be a 2. If you haven't checked these out, if you're a fighting game fan or SNK fan or you just want fun games, check them out on the Switch. They're not being released anywhere else. These are beloved games by a small community that they're getting the best possible treatment on the Switch. I never thought I would see these getting re-released. And then you have some weird new fun IPs by some of the best in the business of their genres, like Platinum Games' Astral Chain, not available anywhere else. This game is awesome. This is a weird, fun, third-person action game that I can't even begin to succinctly describe, but it's only found on the Switch. If you're a fan of Bayonetta, Mad World, what have you, check this out. Then you had what was exclusive to the Switch for many years, but is now on PC, the wonderful Octopath Traveler, the game at the forefront of the HD 2D event, an 80-hour JRPG where you get to build your party and choose their decisions. Not the strongest narrative, but fantastic gameplay, music, and visual. I would check this out if you were a JRPG fan. Like I said, great system for that. And then you have revivals of systems that we were missing for over a generation, like No More Heroes 3 and the not so great but story relevant Travis Strikes Again. No More Heroes 3, we thought it was done. We never thought it was coming back, but Nintendo bringing it back with No More Heroes 3 released this past August. Fantastic game, not found anywhere else. Bringing it all the way back from No More Heroes 2, which came out in 2010 on the Wii. So yeah, it's incredible to me what this console has in sheer diversity. It has its big boys, right? It has your Zelda and your Mario, right? And those keep the system afloat. Mario Kart, you have the more casual titles. Does it have the deeply, high budget marketing games like God of War on PlayStation or Last of Us? No, it cannot. It cannot capably do games like that, but it does not need it when it has a library that is as diverse as it has. Its download service is fantastic. The best version of Devil May Cry 3 is on the Switch. Yes, there is a version of Devil May Cry 3 on the Switch that allows you to switch freely between all the styles and weapons on the fly. If you don't know what that means, essentially Dante plays better than he ever has in that game, but only on the Switch. And it's multiplayer. It is cooperative. Yes, you can play as Dante and Virgil in a Bloody Palace kind of horde mode, ascending the ladder, multiplayer mode only on the Switch. It's a classic game that Capcom went back into and fixed or added to only on the Switch. There's other releases of that game on PS4 and Xbox One, but it is on the Switch that you will get some exclusive features. You have some of the best versions of Sonic 1 and 2 on the Switch. Wonderful ports by M2. Sonic 1 and 2 come out on everything, but they added the drop dash and ability from Sonic Mania to the Switch version. They allowed you to play as Knuckles in Sonic 2 without lock-on, and I wish they continued that. There's, of course, issues with Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles, music issues, whatever. They only ever do Sonic 1 and 2. But like the download library, just incredible. Which brings me to my kind of the downer part of the video. The Switch isn't perfect. With said download service, it must be brought to the attention the Switch does not have the Virtual Console eShop that the Wii, Wii U, and 3DS were so famous for. You can download many fantastic games from many fantastic developers and publishers on the Switch. However, Nintendo's own first-party games, older classic games, you can't do that. You cannot download and own Super Mario Brothers from the Nintendo Entertainment System on the Switch. You cannot do that. You can do that on every other piece of Nintendo hardware for the last 20 years, but you cannot download that, Mario 1, 2, 3, Zelda, Link's Awakening, whatever, Donkey Kong Country. No, you cannot download those games. In order to have access to those games, or some of them, you must get the Switch's online service. Now, what that is, and this is a very hot topic recently, is a online service, they're equivalent to the Xbox's Game Pass, but not nearly as good, where you have access to a number of NES games, Super Nintendo games if you get the base package, $20 a year, and I believe if you play $50 a year, which is way too much, you get access to some Genesis and Nintendo 64 games. Now, they have some nice features, a rewind feature, save anywhere feature. There's like these special easy mode versions of the game, and the libraries slowly expand as time goes on. And it's great that you can take them on the go. But in comparison to the library that you were able to purchase on the Wii, Wii U, and 3DS, it's terrible. The library on the Switch Online service is incredibly small compared to its predecessor, the eShop. The titles come out incredibly slowly. They are mostly first-party titles. There are actually quite a few third-party titles, but it's the safe bets, right? There's not a ton of deep cuts. I mean, Sin and Punishment on N64, yes, but the rest is pretty standard affair, and that's just a damn shame. If you end those services, and eventually all of these services eventually end, you do not have those games downloaded. They will be gone. They will be inaccessible. Why? The fact, like, if I could just pay $2 to $5 to have some of these games, like the SNES games, NES games, I will do it. Yes, people say they keep making you buy the Mario, and you can't transfer it from like this to that. I got you. But now I would do it just to have it on my Switch in portable and own it, to have it. And it sucks that you can't. I will just do that. Nintendo will probably not fix that because the consoles are doing so well. So yes, get used to the lame selection of games that are available digitally on the Nintendo Switch online service. It's such a shame, and like I said, it's so weird. Third-party titles, you can download and buy Sonic the Hedgehog on the Nintendo Switch and own it and keep it for like $5, but you cannot have Super Mario Brothers. You cannot have Donkey Kong Country. You must subscribe to a service to get it. And I've heard, especially with the Nintendo 64 online service section, the part I have not tried out yet, that it's not fantastic emulation. It's better in other places, which is a real shame. This is coming from Nintendo, coming to a console that is one of the most successful of all time. So yeah, that is one of the, in my eyes, probably the biggest flaw of the Nintendo Switch, is its lack of first-party downloadable titles. I know that's not big for everybody, but as someone who really loved going through the Wii, 3DS, and Wii U and downloading games I had not had a chance to play, some older games, some stuff on obscure consoles like the TurboGrafx 16, some Neo Geo titles, like that is something that is sorely lacking in the Switch. And 5 years later on, I don't think we're getting it because we just got N64 games. So yeah, it's a real shame. And by the way, though, those Neo Geo games and N64 games, or TurboGrafx 16 games, those are actually still available for download on the Switch. On some of them, there are tons of Neo Geo games on there. But yeah, you still can't buy Super Mario Brothers trilogy or Mario Kart or Zelda. It's still a shame. But there are other issues with the Switch. One of the biggest issues that others take umbrage with is the poor online service. The Switch, Nintendo in general, has never been an online powerhouse, not well known for their good services. Now, while a number of games run well, like Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, if you live in large cities, urban areas like myself near New York City or Los Angeles, I'm sure in more rural areas, certain parts of the world, and I've seen it, it's just terrible. The Wi-Fi is the built-in way to do it. You have to get a USB adapter to hardline it. And I know many people who just like give up on the Switch Online. It's just local co-op only. That's kind of how I do it. And yet again, I don't see that being remedied. Nintendo doesn't need to do that. I mean, most of their biggest games, like Zelda and Mario, just they're single player games. And sure, it stinks for Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, and any fighting game. It's something I just don't see getting worked on because, for the basic service for the Nintendo Switch Online service, you're paying $20 and then $50 for the yearly. Yeah, sure. But what you're really paying for is access to those games that probably aren't necessarily worth that price every year. But yeah, that's a shock. Like the poor online, we're stuck with that, guys. And then the final issue, or at least one of the third big issue I'd say there is with the Switch, is that, it's not the most powerful piece of hardware. And that's not an issue for everybody, but a lot of people say it's not 4K, it's only 1080 and far less than that on the Switch screen itself. 60 frames a second games. To get that on the Switch, you really have to limit the visuals. Ports for games either are non-existent on the Switch, like it's usually, for higher-end games, PS4, PC, Xbox, and if there is a Switch port, it's like got that Wii effect that the Wii had during its own generation, which is a severely hampered version. And yeah, I see that, not that I care about visuals. When I buy the Switch, I understand that there's a trade-off for its ease of access, its portability compared to visuals. I don't mind that so much. But I will say this, I will never get that downgraded Switch version. Like if there's a version of the Switch or a version of a game and my options are between PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, I will never buy that game on the Switch. I am someone who strictly buys the exclusives on the Switch. But looking at my library, of only which I have a small part of here for the Switch, that's actually a huge number of titles. So, it's not the biggest issue to me that it has poor visuals. I mean, yeah, some of my, like, does Mario really need to be the best looking game? No. I mean, do I wish that something like No More Heroes 3 didn't buckle as much as it did? Yeah, sure. But let's be honest, that series isn't coming out on any other console. So, I'll take what I can get. However, luckily, I think Nintendo understands, and people who make games for the Switch understand that, if you can't push something graphically, it's important to really emphasize your strong art style, like Astral Chain. Yeah, it's like graphically, obviously not the most impressive game, but you wouldn't be able to tell that because it's so beautiful to just look at. It's got a style, it's got a flair. So as long as people who are developing for the Switch kind of focus on that, I think it'll be fine. But overall, yeah, the ports of contemporary games, of modern games, they're just worse on the Switch, almost unilaterally. Like, so that is kind of a knock on it. But that's been Nintendo's kind of MO for like 15 years now, ever since the Wii. Like I said, the last time they had a beefy console was the GameCube, which was more powerful than the PS2, not quite Xbox levels, but quite a bit more powerful than the PS2. If you don't believe me, check the versions of Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 4 on the PS2 and GameCube. The PS2 version has more content, but the GameCube version looks way better. So, there's an easy comparison. But, so I'd say those are the big three issues. There's some minor other issues on the Switch that bother me in particular, like lack of folders. And the PS5 has this issue too. The Wii U and the PS4 allowed you to put build folders for your digital games. So someone like me who downloads hundreds of games every year, like, you have your platformer folder, or your fighting game folder, your SNK folder, your Capcom folder. I could do that on Wii U, and it's just not an option on Switch. I have tons of games downloaded on Switch, but every time I want to go look at any of them, you have to go through an A through Z list, which is a pain. Like, just give me a folder. That's not a big ask. We're not getting it. And then there's the basic Nintendo problems. There's no trophy system. Very superfluous, very dumb. But guess what? A lot of people like achievements and trophies. Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, they're all there. Knowing that you've 100%ed complete a game, kind of cool, right? I mean, I want something like that from Nintendo. Like, come on, let people know what I've done, and I could double check if people are trash talking what they've done. Like, I've beaten this game, and you look and they haven't beaten it. I'm like, you fucking fraud. Now, but it would be a nice little interface change. And these little things do add up. When it's annoying. Like on the PS5, you can't make folders. It's beyond me why you can't do that. But overall, though, are these negatives, the poor online, the somewhat weaker graphics, at this point, much weaker graphics, and the bad digital shop in regards to its own first-party titles, damning? No, I don't think in the long run, and this is of course opinion, it'll damn the Switch's reputation. All I think it's doing is holding it back from being the clear best Nintendo console. You know what I mean? Like, if you had access to the entire Super Nintendo library that you did on the Wii U or the N64 and the GameCube library and the Wii library, that would be incredible. I think it would be my favorite Nintendo console of all time because it's damn close to it now. We'll see how Bayonetta 3 affects that. Bayonetta 3 could, if it ends up being as good as I hope it is, this might be my favorite Nintendo console of all time. But, what's in the future for the Switch? Like, what am I looking forward to, now that we're in the year 2022 and we're halfway, we're 5 years, let's say ostensibly a little more than halfway through the Switch's lifespan. Let's say if the Switch lasts 8 years, that sounds 7 to 8, let's say 8 years. Of course we have the long-awaited Metroid Prime 4. We'll see what happens with that, guys. That was relaunched. It was originally announced at the Switch's launch, maybe prior to it. We haven't seen hide nor hair of that game. But Metroid's not dead with the arrival of the most recent Metroid Dread. That rhymed, not on purpose. And so I think it's behind the scenes. I think that game's going to be announced 3 months before it comes out. Same thing with Paper Mario. That game was announced very close to launch. I do think we're going to get that. I don't know. I don't think it's going to get pushed all the way out into oblivion. I think Metroid is in the best place it has been in a decade. And that's not saying much, but I think we will be getting that. I don't think it's coming out in 2022, however. As far as this year, I think the strongest, if Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, we're getting that on the holiday of this year, no earlier. I think that's going to revitalize the Switch. I think, like many, if they do make something above the Switch OLED, like a Switch Pro or a Switch 4K, which is really, something I want. Let me make this. If they make a Switch Pro, as it were, I do think, and it's not the OLED. It's kind of debatable whether the OLED was that, this rumored Switch Pro. All I want is a better UI and maybe a little, more horsepower. I don't necessarily care if it's 4K, but that would be nice. But I think maybe that'll be one of the launch titles for that. Like it'll work on your regular Switch, Breath of the Wild 2, but it will be the kind of selling point. Like it's bundled with the Switch Pro. I think that's a strong possibility, but I'm tired of hearing Switch Pro rumors. If it was just the OLED, then hey, whatever. Of course, there's the chance that we get a follow-up to Mario Odyssey. Like I said, we haven't heard anything for that. But, we had a Galaxy 2 on the Wii. We had Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo. There's always a chance. Like, even though, we don't get many mainline Mario games per console, like, there's definitely, the Switch is successful enough and Mario Odyssey launched early enough in its life. I think there's a chance we'll get one more 3D Mario before this console is done. I've heard rumors that the next Xenoblade game, or at least the next Monolith Soft game, is in the works. And there's not too much left on the Switch, on the Wii U to Switch port front left. I mean, like I said, Xenoblade Chronicles X, there's the Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, there's Sonic Lost World, and Devil's Third. The chances of any of those getting ported are slim, but if it's going to be one, it's going to be Xenoblade Chronicles X. So we'll wait and see for that. And another prediction that I must throw out there, and this one isn't the most positive one. Let's see if I have the... Yeah, I think we're going to get more stuff like this. Now, what is this? Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Yeah, this is kind of a maligned re-release of Mario 64, Sunshine and Galaxy. Look, I don't care that like they're not all up to snuff visually. I'm happy that I get to play these on a modern system on the go. Like, Mario 64 isn't widescreen or whatever. I don't care at all about that. These games, I don't want them touched up, but what I do care about is that the Mario Galaxy 2 was not on this. That kills me. That game is incredible. It deserves to be here. And that this was a limited release, more than anything. This was like a year-long release. It sold like crazy. It's a marketing tactic where Nintendo just launched the game and they say, hey, it's anniversary only, and then it just pulled both digitally and it halts physically. So I hope you have a copy of this physically if you want it. It's the only way to get it now before the price goes up. We also saw this with the Fire Emblem re-release. The re-release of the original Fire Emblem was a digital download on the Switch that was available for like 6 months. We also saw the release and then like pulling of Mario 35, I believe, where it was like a competitive Mario game with like 35 people running through a course at the same time. I hate that. I hate games that are going to be lost to history or games that are very hard to access. There's no reason to do that, especially digitally. Like, Nintendo owns these games. These are not licensed games that need to get pulled. Like, this should be available forever. I don't like artificial scarcity. The other companies, like, not even, like, there's no one else who does that. Like, yeah, there's limited editions like Limited Run, which is a smaller company producing a smaller number of physical titles because of resource reasons in a very, like limited market. This is Mario. This is 3D Mario, your mascot, the most recognizable video game character of all time, and 3 of his biggest and best-selling adventures of all time. Like, yeah, we'll put it out for a year and then you can't get it. Stop. Suckers like me bought it. Hell, I bought 2. I'm part of the problem. But the fact of the matter is, no one was happy about it. Like, you gotta have like, the court of public opinion has to find you innocent. You have to make your audience happy, and that's just, it's silly of them to do that. So I do expect to see more of that. Maybe a Zelda collection with like the 3D Zeldas on there. Who knows? But it just stinks. And as far as what do I want to see on the Switch, switching gears to the more positive things, man. Like I said, I want Bayonetta 3 to exceed. I want a new Donkey Kong Country game. Tropical Freeze was excellent. I truly do love that game. But this came out in 2014 on the Wii U, and this wasn't a fully new version. So I hope we Donkey Kong gets a little bit more love, whether it be a 2D or 3D platformer. Hopefully before the end of this generation, Donkey Kongs are far and few between. I hope at the very least, as far as on the digital side, we get the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 collection. There's those repixelized versions, whatever, on the phones only. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, yeah, let's put the first 6 games of the most famous JRPG franchise in the world only on phones, and I think maybe Steam, but I'm not even sure if they're the same versions. The Pixel remasters, that's what they're called. Like, put them on the Switch. Put them there with Dragon Quest and Saga and Mana. Like, please, that's what I would love to see. But other than that, I do think I want to see the Switch continue to succeed, because despite all its gripes, despite Nintendo's some poor practices, keep this in mind, guys. Gaming is divided into 2 groups, or many subdivisions, but 2 of the largest groups are like, the group of people who only buy Call of Duty, FIFA, and Madden every year. Like, that's it. That's all they buy. And that's that's fine if you do that. You know, like everyone has like 10 friends that do that. But they kind of govern a large part of how gaming works. Like loot boxes work because of those people. Like EA and Activision Blizzard, like they put those predatory practices in their games because people buy the cards and like the skin packs for those games. And then you have the more, I won't even say hardcore core gamers, but the people who like the game enthusiasts, you know, people who regularly buy the games and the consoles and look for other games, who look for, you know, like deep cuts and regularly buy more than one game a year, whether that be Mario, Final Fantasy, Shin Megami, Street Fighter, you know what I'm saying. The more core gamers, and genre has nothing to do with that, but there is a divide between what I'll call like bro gaming, like normie gaming, and you know, the other side. And I gotta say for Nintendo, like they're pushing so many genres and they are showing that you don't need to have Madden and Call of Duty and FIFA be the big showrunners for your console. Like, no, they have adventure games, they have RPGs, they have JRPGs as kind of the games that drive them, and they don't do loot boxes. Not exactly, like there's DLC is starting to come out, but it's usually worthwhile DLC. It's not like they took stuff out of the game and put it in after. It's like, no, a game has been out for a while, it's done good, then let's put some DLC or free DLC. So like Nintendo does do some good stuff. They definitely are doing really good on allowing indie games onto their platform. You know, giving games, like I said, like that maybe never had a chance to shine before, giving them new life. You know, doing really deep cuts like Neo Geo Pocket. It's overall, I like what the Switch does for gaming. It's one of the most successful things ever without totally selling out. Is the quality 100% what I want it to be on every service? No, definitely not. But I think this console is more good than bad by a long shot, and I want to see him continue to succeed. And at 103.5 million units sold, I think it's there, man. The PS4 is currently set at 117 million. I absolutely think that by the end of this year, it's going to surpass PS4 in sales, and that's nuts. The PS4 was such a major, like it killed the Xbox One and the Wii U throughout their lifetimes. It slaughtered them, and in its short life, the Switch has caught up to it. And of course, you have to take into account that people who would have bought both home consoles and the portable counterparts are buying this. So like, you know, you got to kind of combine Wii U and 3DS sales. But even with those two combined, that's not as much as the Switch has sold. The Switch is really going out there. I believe that the Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Pocket, if you put them all together, it's around 118 million sold, something like that. I could see the Switch even surpassing that. Will it reach the lofty heights of the DS and the PS2 in the mid 150 million space? Probably not, but honestly, if in 2 years or 2 or 3 years, and this thing is still kicking with great titles that are big, like if a new Mario Kart came out, which I don't expect, but it could, if a new Zelda came out and it pushed sales, it might. Who knows? This thing is really rocking. If they drop the price from 300 to let's say 200 for the base model, who knows? Like the Switch has been, I would say, almost quietly successful. Like it's this low-powered system with the worst online, but damn, this thing just, every time you look at the charts, this thing sells like crazy. And you go in the library and you're like, wow, this has a lot of good games. Like, man, I could jump around from, I don't know, Azure Striker Gunvolt to Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, and let's then play some Shin Megami. Like, yeah, there's some variety on this damn thing. More so than probably the last 3 Nintendo consoles combined. So yeah, I love the Switch. It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. No console can be picked out as non-perfect. Well, maybe the Dreamcast and the PS2. But like, ever since then, no console is perfect. And yeah, I gotta say, guys, I hope that this console keeps rocking out for the next 3 years, because even if I don't get 4K, we don't get a Switch Pro, still love my Switch, bring it with me to every doctor's appointment and oil change. So yeah, that's it for the Switch. 5 years, and I've rattled on for long enough about it. What I want to hear now is what you guys think of the Switch. Everyone has one of these. It's like very few people's main console, but it's like everyone's sidearm. Like I have a PC and a Switch. I have a PS5 or PS4 and a Switch. And what do you think about this? Is it as good as its predecessors? Is it better? What would you like to see change? What do you like? What changes do you like that it has made? What's your experience with the online with it as it all? What game do you hope comes to the Switch? Do you think it's overrated, underrated? Can you believe these sales numbers? What are your theories? I want to know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Switch, maybe my opinion you find wrong. Maybe the Switch is the worst thing ever, but and maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's the best system ever, but I want to know about it. So please, in the comments below, let me know, and I'll try to respond to you as quickly as I can, because like I say, every video, that is my favorite part of this channel. And please, if you like what I've said, of course, like and subscribe, let people know about the channel, and I hope to see you soon. We got plenty of new content coming down the line. My name is Mike. This has been Chip Damage, and thank you so much for joining me. Please take care of yourselves.